So I haven't played any of the other Dawn of War games. I have played all of the Company of Heroes games though. So I just basically want to start out by asking what's the similarities between the games to make me understand your Dawn of War strategy better.
Yeah, of course. So there's a lot of fundamental differences. We're both real-time strategy games that use squads as our basic unit of control. So typically infantrymen come in squad of multiple guys, and have a sort of frontline combat focus where you're going out and capturing territory in order to gain resources to build up your army. From that point, then there's fairly substantial differences, both in terms of the sort of gameplay objectives and the overall style. Stylistically, obviously, Company of Heroes is a sort of real combat feel. It's really trying to capture that World War II combat, whereas we're space warriors in the 41st millennium with elves with chainsaws and big green orcs and giant robots. So we're sort of freed of the constraints of reality to a certain extent. And then from a gameplay standpoint, whereas Company of Heroes is really, you can almost think of it as the over-the-shoulder RTS, right? It's down close with your.
I found Company of Heroes really strategic compared to other RTS games. So
yes, it's definitely like unit placement and all those things that have huge impact. We're a little more freeform, larger armies. Our focus is more on the abilities of your elite units and those as the game changers, rather than things like taking cover behind walls and so on. Unit preservation is less important for us. Like, you can churn through units in horrific numbers, depending on your play style. So it's a little more about over-the-top fun compared to Company of Heroes, which is more of it's super fun, but aims to be a sort of strategic simulation.
Would you say that Dawn of War 3 is more accessible than Company of Heroes games?
Yes, I think so. I mean, we've definitely put a lot of effort into that. There's nothing inherent about it. How can I put this? It could have been the other way, right? Like, Dawn of War, there's enough lore in the franchise that it can be intimidating. It's like, if the messaging we provide is like, oh, you need to know about 30 years of backstory before you can come into this, then that's not accessible at all. So we've been trying to put the focus on just interesting heroes and like crazy landscapes that don't require a lot of knowledge ahead, but invite you to learn more about them.
If you if you're new to the Warhammer universe, if you want to delve deeper into the lore, will you be able to? Will you have some kind of?
Yes, there'll be more stuff that you can learn within the game, and then there's always more stuff that you can learn outside the actual software.
Yeah. Do you think we're seeing like a new Warhammer era coming on here? Because I think it's like Warhammer everywhere. It's Vermintide, and it's I review the Total War Warhammer, and now Dawn of War 3. So
I mean, as a long-standing Warhammer fan, I think it's a great time. I'm like so happy to see so many good games coming out and people coming to this IP from like different places, and that's just great. our focus obviously is on making Dawn of War 3 the biggest and best we can. But it creates this really nice space for us.
On a side note, you as a tabletop Warhammer fan, how have you seen the popularity of that game? Has it gone like this over the years, or how would you describe it? Or is it like a constant fan base?
It's sort of a constant fan base, I would say. I mean, I think my own experience through it, this is anecdotal because it's just me, but you sort of engage with different parts of the hobby at different ages. Like, I don't always get the chance to play as much as I might want to, but I really enjoy the painting of figures, and that has appealed to me more as I've grown older. Getting into the various fiction and other things. So I've been in that IP in different ways for 2.5 decades or whatever, and I think there's a lot of people who go through that who aren't always interacting with a hobby in the same way, but stick with it over years and years. And for people who have already been introduced to that IP, Dawn of War is another way to express that affection and delve into it in a different way. I like to think there's a lot of people who will come to it without having, really had previous Warhammer experience.
Yeah, like me.
And may discover that universe through our lens, which is really gratifying.
Yeah. Speaking about customization or painting, how is the customization? Are you going to be able to do anything with your units, especially in multiplayer? I guess people are going to want to.
Yeah, so we've always had, the ability to choose like paint schemes and so on. And that's a fairly standard part of Dawn of War's multiplayer space. We're not really at a point where we're talking about many details in that front, but we're going to launch with a full suite of multiplayer, and multiplayer is a critical part of our of the success of Dawn of War, both for the last 12 years and moving forward.
Yeah, can you tell me anything about will you support the modding community in any way, or is it too early to talk about?
It's a little early to talk about that. Yeah.
Okay, how has tell me, as I've not played the previous two games, how has the modding scene looked like for Dawn of War 1 and 2?
So Dawn of War 1 and 2 have had quite healthy modding communities. Both of them launched, in the case of Dawn of War 1, well before things like Steam Workshop and more omnipresent modding, but enthusiastic fans have created some really interesting mods out there that we definitely play and pay attention to. So supporting that community is something that we would love to do, and is definitely part of our thinking. We're just not at a point where we can talk about the details yet.
Yeah, okay. Warhammer always struck me as kind of brutal, but still very fun. Brutal with a.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
There's a certain satirical edge to it that I think is a really important part of what makes Warhammer, rather than it, being some other science fiction setup. Is it? The people inside it, the characters, take it all very seriously, but from the outside, you're not it is a little, it's over the top of the top is what the term we use internally, but it's, why have an attack helicopter when you can have an attack helicopter that looks like a church and has spider legs, and it's like, bring everything up to 11, and that's part of the fun.
Do you have free reigns to create own units, or are you tied to the license?
Well, the reason we wanted the license way back when is just the vast universe of units and setting that it brings to us. So there's a nearly inexhaustible tap of stuff to bring in. So that's definitely where we start. we have, you know, like Gabriel is a character that we created, and you know, but we go through an approvals process with Games Workshop, and they're super supportive of us.
More into detail. Speaking about the, do you have time?
Yeah, you're good. Oh yeah, sorry.
Speaking about the cover system.
Yes.
Earlier on, is new cover system part of it being more accessible? Would you say?
Absolutely, absolutely. We wanted something that was either on or off, that was clear. You're either in cover or you're not. You're either fully protected or you're not protected. So it's just less that the player has to parse from the scene in order to understand. You know, the Dawn of War 2 used the Company of Heroes cover system, which is, you know, a directional system where you're getting protection if you're on one side of a wall but not on the other, and you know, it's works really well for that scale of game. When you're dealing with a whole bunch of armies, you don't really have the desire or the time to line up everybody behind a wall, right? You know, you just want to put them in a place and they're going to be safe.
It almost sounds like you're flirting a little bit with the MOBA community, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be, you know, let me be very clear, we're not making a MOBA, but yeah, we absolutely play MOBAs, and they're absolutely a large part of the modern strategy space. So they're like things that we learn from, take inspiration from, absolutely. I mean, there's parts of Dawn of War 2, in particular its Last Stand mode, that was like an early entry into that sort of pseudo-MOBA space. And so, you know, it's a gameplay style we've had our eyes on for a long time. But, you know, Dawn of War 3 is not a MOBA, but the elite heroes and their, you know, their abilities and the responsiveness and crisp gameplay, like, yeah, absolutely. The MOBAs are part of the, you know, the game design soup out there for us.
How did you choose the 3 starting races? For me, as I don't really know about Warhammer 40k, are those the 3 dominant ones? So it's obvious.
So there's a lot of choices out there. We chose these 3 because they allowed us to tell the story we wanted to tell, and there were 3 really crisp gameplay choices. They have really different gameplay styles. They have different physicality, different, you know, there's a multiplicity of voices involved in them. And they created the sort of, altogether, the gameplay space we wanted to start with. 40k is full of other factions. I would love to get into them, but the key here is to start with a strong triumvirate on which we can build the rest of the game.
Yeah.
About 1 minute left.
Okay, great. One more question then. But looking back at how Relic handled DLCs and stuff like that for Company of Heroes, would it be fair to say that we can expect something like that for Dawn of War 3 as well?
Well, we're not at a point where we're talking about the details of our DLC, but you know, we definitely are looking at a game that will have a long life cycle.
So if you just could choose one other faction to put in the game, not saying that you will, but your favorite, your personal favorite?
Oh, yeah. Well, my personal favorite are the Space Marines, so they're already in there. Yeah. But yeah, there's so many, I can't just choose one.
Okay, great. Well, that's all from me then.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
They can try. Solaria here. Solaria reporting. We stand undaunted. Yes, ready here.